So I'm sure most of you know about the new trailer for Close Enough and how it was slated to release on July 9th. This caught many by surprise, seeing how the show was first announced in 2017 and then went 2 years without any real information. But finally, after years of speculation and build-up, we finally have the show Close Enough on HBO Max, and is it any good? It's pretty good, I guess. Don't get me wrong, the show isn't bad by any means, but after 3 years of build-up, I feel like it's a little disappointing. Now, if it wasn't obvious enough, this show is incredibly similar to regular show, which makes sense. A lot of the same people from that show, including JJ Quintel, are working on this show, but the fact that it's so similar to regular show is probably my biggest problem. The thing is, regular show had 8 seasons and 1 movie, and after the same exact formula of, oh, it's normal until it isn't, happening for 8 seasons, it starts to get old. This show follows the same exact formula. Something happens that seems normal, and then there's also a subplot. Those 2 subplots merge into one, and then something wacky and crazy happens, and then everyone's okay. And sometimes that's cool, but it leaves the episodes feeling very predictable and repetitive. Not only that, but some of the voice actors from regular show and a lot of the artists from regular show return to this show, so not only is the art very similar, but some of the voice acting is from regular show as well. Like JJ Quintel voices the main protagonist in both regular show and Close Enough. I just wish that Close Enough was kind of like its own separate show and tried to set itself apart from regular show rather than be almost like a human version of that show with humans. Although, one thing that sets this show apart from regular show is the fact that it has an underlying theme throughout each of the episodes, and that's getting older and staying relevant. Most of the characters are about in their 30s, and a lot of the episodes have to do with them trying to stay young and hip. Plots like trying to get a job, getting fired, trying to stay cool with other parents, trying to stay relevant with people, or just coming to terms with the fact that you have a baby.
And my new show, Close Enough, is kind of like picking up where that show left off, where once you start getting into your 20s and into your 30s, you start to grow up, start to have a family, and dealing with those types of stories. So
yeah, it does some stuff to separate itself from a regular show, but at the same time, there's a lot of similarities between the shows. Now, originally I was gonna go over each episode, but seeing how that might get a little repetitive and boring, rather than doing that, I'm just going to talk about the show as a whole. And like I said, there isn't really much to talk about if we go over each episode because they all follow the same format. But for an example, let's use the first episode of the show. In the first episode, our 2 characters, Josh and Emily, need to make a school project for their kid. So the 2 have their roommates babysit their daughter while they go look for thread to make their school project. So they end up in this random town where everyone speaks Spanish, and they end up finding these random British kids. While this is all going on, the 2 roommates, Alex and Bridget, who are babysitting their daughter, can't find her anymore. So right there we have 2 different subplots, which are semi-normal. So the kids tell Josh and Emily that they'll give them thread if they pretend to be their parents. So they do, and then the kids make the thread, but it turns out that they weren't kids, they were just really old people. So they start chasing them all over the place trying to kill them, and they drive off, and all the kids die in explosions. And it turns out that the daughter was safe all along. In fact, while they were gone, she ended up making her own school project. You know, explaining the episodes is actually kind of hard now that I think about it because there's just so much shit happening. These episodes are really fast-paced, but at the same time, they also feel kind of directionless. And that's on top of the fact that they all follow the same formula. So yeah, the writing and pacing isn't the best. But what about the characters? Our main protagonist is Josh, who actually appeared in a short that JJ Quintel made back in 2006. Josh is just sort of the everyman who is also the father of Chloe, their daughter. He makes video games for a living, but he's also kind of a big dum-dum who doesn't understand anything.
Are you drinking it?
He's kind of just oblivious to everything. Then you have Emily, who normally tries to stop Josh from doing stupid things. She's kind of the voice of reason, but normally she tries to act cool in front of everybody. And much like Josh, both of them try to relate to their son, Chloe, who is terrible at school. Then you got the 2 roommates, Alex and Bridget, who are both divorced. Alex isn't really used that much in the show, and most of the time he's just kind of a comic relief character and nothing else.
I love our family. I also love our family.
And then you have Bridget, who once again is a comic relief character, but she also does drugs. That's pretty epic if I do say so myself. You got some other characters as well, but they all feel one note. These are the main 5 characters. So overall, we have a fun bunch of characters, with some good voice acting to accompany it. Another big part of this show is the comedy, because you know, it's a comedy show. Now, they do throw in a few good jokes here and there, but I'm a little disappointed considering how a lot of the jokes are either slapstick or explosions! Much like regular show, this show has a lot of explosions, like a lot of explosions. Holy shit, that is a lot of it. Please stop, you're gonna give me a fucking seizure. The comedy's alright, although one thing that I was surprised to see is how tame this show is. Seeing how this is an adult show, I thought it was gonna be just a very adult version of regular show, but it really isn't. In fact, the characters don't even curse that much in the series at all. In fact, they replace words like the F word with frick and shiz. I'd say there's probably 1 or 2 curse words every episode. They have stuff like weed and alcohol here and there, but other than that, nothing really that inappropriate. There's also very slight nudity where you can see the characters' butts, and that's it. I'm not really disappointed per se, just kind of surprised. Obviously, the final thing we're going to talk about is the animation, which is actually pretty good. It's probably the best part about the show, and other than the fact that it's basically just regular show animation, I actually think it's pretty good. But of course, I have problems with it. First off, I think the way that characters walk can be a little static sometimes. There's also a few consistency issues with some of the characters.
With my massive fucking chin, I can literally reach the fucking accelerator pedal.
And even some of the character design is a little bland. What the fuck are these stock photos? What the Overall, though, I actually think the animation is pretty good. You have very detailed backgrounds that look really nice, you have very expressive facial expressions, and for some reason, the cars in the show are actually really smooth and I really like them. So yeah, those are my first impressions of Close Enough. Overall, it's not the best, and I'm a little disappointed with it, but overall, I think it's pretty good. So I'm gonna give Close Enough a 6 out of 10, which is a good score. Please do not execute me in the comment section. 6 out of 10 is good. A 5 out of 10 would be like mediocre, and a 6 is just good. It's a good show. I would recommend it. Just don't get your hopes up super high, okay?